My parents lied and gave my college fund to my sister, then watched me work retail for 6 years while she traveled Europe. So I took them to court. I found out last week that my parents had depleted my college fund to pay for my sister's education. I'm 24, and my sister is 20. I never went to college because my parents always said they couldn't afford to support me. They said that if I wanted to go to college, I had to figure it out on my own, therefore I did not attend. I began working immediately after graduating from high school, first at a petrol station and later at a mall. I've been working full-time for around 6 years. My sister began college 2 years ago. She's going to a private university that costs around $45,000 each year. I always imagined she received scholarships or financial aid. I never really inquired about it because, honestly, I was trying not to be bitter. My high school grades were good. I was in the honor society. I wanted to study business or accounting, but my parents always said they couldn't help me financially. They continually stated they did not have enough money for education. They advised me to apply for scholarships, but they couldn't help me. Community college was an option, but even then I would be on my own. I learned about the college fund purely by mistake. I went to my folks' house last Sunday for dinner. They hold monthly family meals that they insist we all attend. My sister was also there. After dinner, my father requested me to grab some files from his office for him. He was assisting my uncle with taxes or something. I went into his office and started rummaging through the filing cabinet for the folder he requested. I discovered a folder with my name on it. I was not spying, I swear. It was right there when I was looking for tax documents. I opened it, assuming it was old school records or something. There were a number of bank statements from an account in my name that I had no idea existed. My account was opened when I was born. My grandparents and parents had been contributing money to it for years. The statements indicated consistent deposits until I was about 18. The last statement in the folder showed a balance of slightly more than $13,000. There was a note on it that said, "Transferred to Emily's education fund," with a date of 4 years earlier. Emily is my sister. I returned downstairs with the folder. I asked my parents what it was. My mother looked terrified when she saw what I was holding. My father became enraged. He said I had no business going through their personal files. I pointed out that the account was in my name, thus it appeared to be my business. That's when my mother started weeping. My father forced me to sit down, and they explained that sure, there was a college fund for me, but because I elected not to attend college, they decided to utilize the money for my sister instead. I informed them that I hadn't chosen not to go. They had told me they couldn't help me. For years, they told me they didn't have any money for my education. Throughout high school, whenever I mentioned college, they shut down. They knew I wanted to go. They knew I had applied to schools and been accepted, but they kept stating they couldn't afford it. So I gave up and found a job instead. My father encouraged me to be delighted that the money went to support my sister. According to his argument, at least it remained in the family. My sister sat there the entire time, looking uncomfortable. She said she didn't know the money was intended for me. She believed our parents had set up money exclusively for her education. My mother was still crying and insisted that they did what they thought was best. I left. I got up and walked out. I returned to my apartment and have been avoiding their calls and texts since then. My sister texted me that she was sorry and didn't know. My parents have called approximately 20 times. My mother left voicemails saying she wanted to explain. I'm not sure what to do now. That money might have transformed my life. I could have attended college. I could have a different job, a career. Instead, I've been working in retail for 6 years, while my sister attends an expensive private institution with my money. I've been researching online to see if what they did was lawful. The account was in my name, but because I was a minor at the time of setup, I believe they were the custodians. I'm not sure if they did anything illegal by sending the money out after I turned 18. Morally, it feels really wrong. A friend suggested I contact a lawyer. Another buddy suggested that I cut off touch with my family and move on. I'm not sure what to do. Part of me wants to know if I have any legal rights to that money. Even if I can't get it all back, perhaps I can get some of it. I could still attend college. I'm just 24. It isn't too late. My apartment contract is up for renewal next month. I was considering moving anyway, to a cheaper location distant from the city. Now I'm considering whether I should relocate further away. Perhaps to a different state, to avoid my family altogether. But this feels like letting them off the hook. I called my grandparents. They're my mother's parents. They established the college fund when I was born. They had no idea the money had gone to my sister. They assumed I had chosen not to utilize it. They were surprised when I told them what had transpired. My grandfather was going to call my parents and resolve things. I have not heard anything since then. Edit. You convinced me to look for a lawyer, so I'm going to call around tomorrow and see if I can get a free consultation. I want to know whether I have any legal options here. Even if I decide not to pursue them, I'd like to know what is possible. Then I'll determine what to do with my family. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks since I learned about the college fund. I spoke with a lawyer. I located someone who provides free initial consultations and visited with him last Monday. I brought copies of the bank statements I had taken from my parents' house. After evaluating them, he advised I might have a case based on how the account was set up. If it was a custodial account under the Uniform Transfers to Minors Act, the money became legally mine when I turned 18, or 21, depending on the state. If my parents transferred money after that without my permission, they may have engaged in financial fraud. To be certain, the lawyer requested to view the original account paperwork. He inquired if I wanted to seek them from the bank or ask my parents for them. I decided to go to the bank first. He told me about his fees, which I cannot pay right now. His advice was to try to resolve the situation directly with my parents first, and then pursue legal action, if that didn't work. I visited the bank the next day. My folks have always done their banking with a local credit union. I inquired about the account and provided my ID. The bank officer was unable to provide any information because my name was no longer on the account. I left the bank and sat in my car for an hour. I eventually decided to text my folks. I informed them that I wanted the original account paperwork and an explanation of what happened to the money. My father answered instantly, claiming that they would explain everything if I came over to discuss in person. I refused and demanded the documentation first. He did not respond after that. My sister called me that night. Our parents, she said, were really upset. She insisted that she had no knowledge the money was initially intended for me. She swore that if she had known, she would not have accepted it. She requested that we speak in person. I agreed to see her for coffee the next day. We met in a cafe halfway between our locations. She seemed exhausted. She acknowledged that she had been dealing with guilt since finding out. According to her, our parents had always stated that they were paying for her schooling with their assets and investments. She never questioned it. She wanted to hear about my plans. She became concerned when she learned about my appointment with a lawyer, and questioned if I was going to sue our parents. I told her I wasn't sure yet, but I wanted the truth and what was properly mine. She was concerned that I was going to make her drop out of college. I told her that was not my goal. She's already halfway through her program, but our parents needed to make things right somehow. She couldn't imagine how they could come up with so much money today. The majority of money had already been spent on her first 2 years' tuition and accommodation. When I inquired about the expense of her schooling, she replied that it was approximately $45,000 per year, including everything. That's $90,000 already gone from my fund, with another $90,000 to go until she finishes. She did not apply for any scholarships or financial help, because our parents assured her that they would fund it. After meeting with my sister, I decided to send an email to my parents. I stated that I needed to know exactly how the account was set up, when, and how the money was transferred, and what their goal was for making things right. My mother responded several hours later. According to her, the account was established as a savings account when I was born, with her and my father as account holders for my benefit. When I decided not to attend college, they felt I did not need the money and transferred it to support my sister. She apologized for not addressing it with me first. I responded, pointing out that I had never resolved not to attend college. They said they couldn't help me financially. I questioned why they had lied to me about having money for my education. She ignored that section in her next email, simply stating that they believed they were making the best option for the family as a whole. They recognized that I was self-sufficient and capable of achieving my goals, whereas my sister required more assistance. I've been researching college alternatives for myself. There is a state institution about 30 minutes from where I live that offers evening and weekend courses. I could keep my job and attend classes part-time. But even with in-state tuition, it would take years to get a degree this way, and I'd have to take out loans. The money allocated for me would have paid my whole education and living expenses, just as it does for my sister now. My grandparents called me again last week. They chatted with my parents. My grandfather was quite upset about the whole incident. They had been contributing to my college fund for years, with the understanding that it was for my education only. If he had known my parents were going to deflect it, he would have planned it differently. He offered to pay the lawyer. I accepted but took on extra shifts at work to save money for legal bills just in case. Then I received an email from my dad. He wanted to put this misunderstanding behind us and move on as a family. He asked me to supper on Sunday. I have not yet responded. I can't see how this is a misunderstanding. They lied to me for years and stole money that was intended for me. I don't want to pretend that didn't happen. I obtained a second job delivering meals on weekends to try to save money faster. Between my normal job and the delivery jobs, I'm currently working roughly 60 hours each week. It's exhausting, but it gives me less time to reflect on everything. My sister texted me again a couple of days ago. Apparently our parents have been arguing a lot since this all came out. Our mother tears all the time, and our father is angry at everyone. She advised me to contact them and figure something out. I told her I was still trying to figure out what to do. The lawyer contacted me again after learning what I discovered from the bank. He emphasized that without the actual account paperwork, it's difficult to know what legal standing I have. He suggested sending a formal letter to my parents seeking any account-related documentation, as well as an accounting of how the money was used. If they refuse, it will help my case if I decide to take legal action later. I'm going to mail the letter. I drafted it last night, and will send it tomorrow. I haven't decided if I'll go to dinner on Sunday. Part of me wants to shun them completely. Another part of me wants to look them in the eyes and ask how they could have done this to me. I'm not sure which would be better. My lease renewal is due in 5 days. For the time being, I have opted to stay in my existing residence. Moving would be expensive, so I need to save every dime I can. Plus, I don't want to flee from this circumstance. I want to resolve it, even if it takes legal action. I keep thinking about all of the times I've struggled financially in the last 6 years. My car broke down and I couldn't afford to repair it for 3 months, so I took the bus for hours every day to work. I got sick and couldn't afford to go to the doctor, so I just dealt with it. All the birthdays and holidays when I couldn't afford tiny gifts for my family, while they sat on a mound of money intended for me. The worst part is that I could have been all right if they had simply been honest from the start. If they had said to me in high school, "We have some money saved for your education, but not enough for a 4-year university, so you might want to consider community college first." I would have understood. I would have made different decisions. But they lied, and claimed they had nothing, intending to give it all to my sister instead. My sister studies art history. She hopes to work in a museum someday. It is not a practical degree with promising employment prospects. I wanted to study accounting. I may have had a successful career by now. But she gets to pursue her ambitions with my money, whilst I work retail and deliver meals on the weekends. I haven't slept properly for weeks. I'm exhausted all the time. Yet when I lie down at night, my mind races. I constantly imagine confrontations with my parents that never occur in reality. Update 2. It has been another month since my last update. A lot has happened. I didn't attend the family meal. Instead, I emailed the formal letter that my lawyer assisted me in drafting. I sent it certified mail so I'd know when they got it. The letter sought all account-related papers, a detailed accounting of how the money was spent, and a payback plan. I offered them 2 weeks to answer before moving further with alternative options, which was the lawyer's nice way of suggesting I would sue them. 3 days after receiving the letter, my father arrived at my flat. I was not expecting him. He knocked on the door as I was preparing for my evening delivery shift. When I answered the door, he pushed past me into the apartment. He held my letter in his hand. He was red in the face. He began yelling about how ungrateful I was and how he couldn't believe I was threatening to sue my own parents. He claimed that they had always supplied for me and that I had no right to expect anything more from them now. I remained calm and told him that if he couldn't address it rationally, he should leave. He became increasingly angry. In his opinion, I was dividing the family over money. My sister was devastated that I would attempt to take away her schooling. My mother had not stopped crying since receiving my letter. When I asked about the account documents, he said they weren't available anymore. I inquired about the accounting for how the money was spent. Apparently, they did not keep track of every dime. I clarified that I wasn't looking for every dime, just a rough breakdown. According to him, the money was used for my sister's tuition and accommodation, and that was all I needed to know. When I questioned about the payback plan, he went off. He stated that they had nothing to repay because the money was never lawfully mine. They had always had complete control over the account and were free to utilize it as they saw appropriate. He had wanted to aid me with college. But when I decided to pursue another path, the money was moved to my sister. I informed him that I had never chosen not to go to college. They said they couldn't help me financially. He stated it was because they believed I was not serious about my schooling. I questioned how they could think that when I had good grades and had been accepted to several colleges. He did not have an explanation for that. Finally, I informed him that he needed to leave. I needed to get to work. As he rose up, he informed me that if I wanted to be with the family, I had to drop everything. Then he departed. I was shaking afterwards. I called in sick for my delivery job. I couldn't handle dealing with customers after that. My mother started phoning me the next day. I didn't respond. Her voicemails implored for the family to sort this out together. They loved me and did not want to lose me for money. Family was more essential than money. I texted her back saying that if family was more important than money, they would not have lied to me for years and given my education fund to my sister. My sister also texted me. Apparently, our father returned home from my residence and punched a hole in the wall. Our mother had to take the day off work since she was so unhappy. She asked me to stop the legal threats and talk to them. She felt stuck in the middle and had no idea what to do. She offered to pay me back after she graduated, but admitted it would take years. I spoke with my lawyer again. After learning that my parents were withholding records and refusing to consider restitution, he stated that we could file a lawsuit to compel them to give the documents, but it would be costly, and there was no guarantee we would win. He proposed one more attempt to resolve the issue personally before initiating legal action. I wrote another email to my folks. I specified exactly what I wanted. All account-related documentation, an accounting of how the money was spent, and a clear payback arrangement. I stated that I preferred to resolve this without going to court, but I was willing to do so if necessary. I gave them 1 more week to answer. 5 days later, my father emailed me. They had considered it, and were willing to return me $20,000 over the following 5 years in monthly installments of approximately $333. This was all they could afford. They hoped that this would be enough for me to move on and rebuild our friendship. There was no mention of the account records or accounting that I had requested. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. He considered it a start, but without a written agreement, there was no guarantee they would make the payments. He also pointed out that $20,000 was significantly less than what I was entitled to, given that the account had more than $13,000 in it when it was moved. He encouraged me not to accept the offer without gathering additional information and putting everything in writing. I replied to my father's email. I appreciated their openness to negotiate restitution, but I still required the account paperwork and a breakdown of how the money was spent. I also pointed out that $20,000 was insufficient for the amount in the account. I suggested they explore a bigger payment sum over a shorter time period. My mother called me soon after I sent the email. She cried again. According to her, they no longer had the paperwork and were unable to repay more than $20,000 without incurring significant financial difficulty. They had already planned to take out a second mortgage on their house to cover the cost. She questioned whether I truly intended to drive my parents into debt only to hurt them. I told her it wasn't about punishment. It was about reclaiming what was properly mine. I told her that they had seen me suffer financially for years while holding on to money that was meant for me. I asked her how she'd react if someone did it to her. She did not have a response. She just continued reiterating that they believed they were doing what was right at the time. My grandparents called me again last week. They requested an update on the situation. I told them about my father's visit, my parents' $20,000 offer, and my lawyer's counsel. My grandfather became quite silent. Then he said he'd look into it and call me back. He called back the next day and asked me to join him for lunch. I agreed. We met in a cafe near his place. My grandmother also came. They appeared nervous. My grandfather had been searching through old files and discovered something I should see. He gave me a folder. Inside was a copy of his and my grandmother's will from 15 years ago, as well as some other paperwork. He pointed to a portion of the will that indicated a trust fund set up for my education. My parents were to administer the trust until I turned 18, after which it would be transferred to me for educational reasons. I inquired whether this was the same account I'd discovered. He thought so, but wasn't certain. Since my birth, he had donated to a college fund for me, which included this trust. There had also been contributions from my parents and some life insurance money when my other grandparents died. I inquired as to why their will had altered since then. He looked puzzled, and insisted they hadn't. I pointed out that if this was still in their current will and they were still living, how could my parents have gotten the money? He did not know. My parents should not have had access to the trust at all. It should have been given to me when I turned 18. I took the materials to my lawyer the next day. After reviewing them, he explained how this substantially altered the situation. If the money came from a trust established by my grandparents, and the trust's provision stated that it would be transferred to me when I became 18, my parents had no authority to reroute it. We needed to figure out what happened to that trust and how my parents got access to it. He produced a more official legal letter demanding all trust-related records and accounts. If my parents refused to disclose these documents, we would initiate a lawsuit and subpoena the bank records. Based on what my grandparents had shown me, we had a much stronger case than he had previously imagined. I resent the letter via certified mail. My parents got it 3 days ago. My father immediately phoned me after receiving it. He was infuriated. He couldn't believe I'd hired attorneys and threatened to sue my own parents. I was breaking my mother's heart. If I did this, I would live with the consequences for the rest of my life. I remained calm and told him I only wanted the truth and what was properly mine. If they had nothing to hide, they should have no trouble releasing the needed documentation. He hung up on me. My sister texted me later in the day. Apparently, our parents had already told her everything. She asked if we could meet again and speak. We met in the same cafe as before. She appeared even more exhausted than the last time. Our parents have been bickering since the newest letter arrived. Our mother ultimately revealed to her that they had spent some of the money on items other than her education. She wasn't sure what it was, but she assumed it was for home renovations and a trip to Europe 3 years ago. She felt nauseated just thinking about it. I informed her about what my grandparents showed me. She began crying. She wasn't sure what to do. She was halfway through her degree program and couldn't afford to finish without our parents' help. She inquired if I was truly going to sue them. I told her I didn't want to, but I needed to know the truth and get justice. She nodded and confirmed her understanding. Yesterday, I received an email from my mother. They were willing to extend their repayment offer to $50,000, payable over 3 years. They would request copies of the account documents from the bank. She implored me not to take legal action until they had the opportunity to make things right. I forwarded the email to my lawyer. He saw the higher offer as a sign that they were now taking this seriously, but it was still far less than what I was likely entitled to, especially if the money had been used for purposes other than my sister's education. He told me to wait and see what documents they produced before making a judgment on the offer. So that is where things stand right now. I am waiting for my parents to give the documentation they promised. My attorney is drafting a lawsuit in case they don't. My sister is stuck in the midst, concerned about her schooling and the family's disintegration. My grandparents are angry because their wishes for my education were not fulfilled. And I'm still working 2 jobs, hoping to earn enough money to start taking classes part-time next semester, while coping with all of this. I still haven't slept properly. The added work hours aren't helping, but I do feel like I'm getting closer to a resolution. I'm not sure if my connection with my parents can ever be restored after this, but I know I can't simply let it go. Not when they stole something that was properly mine and lied about it for years. Not when they saw me struggling and used my money for their own gain. Not when they provided possibilities for my sister but rejected me. I need the truth. I need justice. And I need the opportunity for education that should have been mine all along. Update 3. 2 additional weeks have gone by. My parents finally delivered some of the documentation I had requested. They sent documentation of the initial account creation, statements from previous years, and transfer paperwork from 4 years ago. My lawyer reviewed everything. What we discovered was much worse than I had anticipated. My parents did not set up the account only as a college fund. My grandparents established a trust exclusively for my schooling. They put it up when I was born, with a $25,000 deposit. The trust agreement indicated that the money would be utilized solely for my school expenditures. My parents served as trustees until I turned 18, when I was meant to become the primary beneficiary with direct access. The statements indicated that my grandparents made regular deposits over the years. My parents also made modest deposits, but they were less constant. When my paternal grandparents died when I was 12, a portion of their life insurance proceeds were contributed to the trust as well. By the time I graduated from high school, the account had more than $13,000 in it. Here's where things get very awful. According to the transfer documentation, when I turned 18, my parents went to the bank and persuaded them to transfer the trusteeship to them permanently, rather than releasing it to me. As stated in the original agreements, they stated that I was mentally incapable of managing the funds. They faked documentation claiming I had a cognitive handicap that stopped me from making financial decisions. They had a doctor sign off on this, I have no idea who this doctor is or how they convinced him to do it, because I have never been diagnosed with a cognitive handicap. With the trusteeship handed to them, they gained complete authority over the account. They held the money in my name for 2 more years before transferring it all out when my sister was due to enter college. They deposited the majority of money to an account for her schooling, but not all of it. Approximately $30,000 flowed to other accounts. Based on the dates, this corresponds to the home renovation and European vacation my sister indicated. My lawyer explained that this was evident fraud. They faked medical paperwork, misrepresented my mental competence, and betrayed my grandparents' trust. We had a good basis for a lawsuit and might potentially seek not just the original amount, but also additional damages. I was stunned when I saw all of this. I knew they had lied to me about the money, but I had no idea they would go so far as to falsify medical paperwork, claiming I was mentally impaired. It feels like a profound betrayal. I couldn't process it at first. I just sat in my lawyer's office staring at the paperwork. My lawyer suggested that we give my parents one more chance to settle things before filing a lawsuit. He sent a demand letter outlining exactly what we had discovered and knew they had done. He requested full restitution of the original $13,000, plus an additional $30,000 to account for what they had diverted for non-educational purposes, as well as interest on the total sum for the 4 years since it was moved. The sum amounted to just over $150,000. He gave them 10 days to agree on a repayment plan or face a lawsuit. I sent the letter certified mail again. 2 days later, I received a call from an unfamiliar phone number. A lawyer was representing my parents. They wished to discuss a settlement. My lawyer urged me not to speak with their lawyer directly, and that he would handle all future interactions. The 2 lawyers spoke the following day. After that, my lawyer contacted me to give me an update. My parents were now offering a settlement of $75,000, payable in monthly increments over 5 years. He informed me that rejecting this offer was still insufficient, given what we now knew. He proposed opposing a demand for the whole $150,000, along with a longer payment schedule if necessary. While the lawyers were discussing, my sister called and informed me she was thinking about dropping out and obtaining a job to help pay me back. I advised her not to drop out. This issue was not her fault. I assured her that we would work something out that would not jeopardize her schooling. She thanked me and voiced her anger at our parents for putting us in this situation. She moved out of their house and was staying with a friend since she couldn't tolerate being near them after seeing what they had done. I'm fatigued after all of this and need to relax. I will provide an update whenever I receive more information regarding the settlement negotiations. Right now, I can hardly keep my eyes open after working 2 jobs and dealing with all of this legal and family drama. Thank you for reading so far. I'll return with more when I can.